Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing really well out there today. Over the weekend, we did a live stream that kind of went a bit off the rails, but we had a really good time. I'm trying to regain my composure here. I think everyone in chat is now a channel member. I think you're right. Yeah, there are 47 viewers right now. Nope, here we go. I'm gonna bring this over so you guys can see this. 46 concurrent viewers, 46 new members. Everyone here is a chat member, or a channel member rather. That's hilarious. And part of what we did during that live stream was take a look through the self-host newsletter by Ethan Shawley. If you're not familiar with that, you should be. I'll be sure to have a link in the video description so you can check that out. But one of the things that we took a look at that I took a look at after the fact because of some project updates listed in that newsletter was a project called Palmr, and that's what we're going to take a look at in today's video. So this is the Palmr GitHub repository, and if we look over here on the side in the About section, let me scroll over there, it says Palmr is an open source file sharing platform focused on privacy and security. It enables users to upload, manage, and share files with features like password protection, custom links, and access control without tracking or limitations. Designed for seamless and secure sharing, Palmr is completely free. There's a little demo down here, but if we scroll down a little bit farther, we've got their logo, and it says Palmr is a flexible and open source alternative to file transfer services like WeTransfer, SendGB, Send Anywhere, and Files.fm. Again, for more information, there's a link. I'll also have links to all of this in the video description, so you can check that out at your leisure. It says, why choose Palmr? Self-hosted, full control, no artificial limits, folder organization, simple deployment, scalable storage, and then there's a list of like technologies used, how it works. We've got some screenshots. Thank you to the developer for this. This is one of my big complaints is when developers don't put screenshots. So well done to this developer team for doing this. It seems like the bare minimum, but so many developers miss it. Daniel, Luis Alves, I'm guessing. I probably screwed that up, and if I did, I apologize. More information here, and then some contributing information here. Over the weekend, after the live stream, and then kind of yesterday as well, I spent some time messing around with Palmr to get familiar with it so I could share it with you guys. Because after I first took a look at it, I was really impressed. This is something I feel like I would actually add to my kind of regular deployment for sharing and even receiving files very, very easily. But before we get into talking about Palmr and demonstrating it and that sort of thing, I want to talk about some issues that I ran into up front. And then once we get that out of the way, we'll take a look at my instance and talk about getting it set up. So coming back to the GitHub repository here and taking a look at, it looks like 4 different Docker Compose options, depending on how you want to deploy this. There's a Docker Compose bind mount example, there's a Minio example, there's an S3 example, and then there's just a kind of a standard example here. And they're all more or less the same if we take a look. There we go. These are all going to look very similar. It will just be a matter of which of the environment variables have been enabled or disabled here. And if we come over to here, that was the bind mount example. Here we've got the Minio example, and here we can see that this uses some S3 endpoints, but more or less kind of the same, just different things commented out. We've also got S3 here, which actually looks very similar to the previous one that we took a look at. And then the standard Docker Compose that we've got here as well. Again, very similar to the first one that we looked at with maybe a couple of changes here and there. The one thing that I will say is if you take a look, or if you noticed, all of these will have cayenne tag /Palmr with the latest tag on the end there. And that's very, very standard. But that's where I ran into some issues with my setup initially. Basically, the issues that I ran into had to do with, like, I was able to upload files just fine, and I was able to share those files just fine with no issue. But when it came time to get my share URL and in this hypothetical, give that link to someone else on a different browser, on a different computer, or whatever, when I tried to then download those shared images via the other browser, it would fail out on me over and over and over again. And I couldn't figure out why until I started looking through the Docker logs for Palmr. And that's when I started noticing that there was an issue. It was throwing an issue in the logs, which I was appreciative of, but I couldn't figure out what the issue was because like I had done everything right. So I started Googling around and I started looking for a possible indicator what the issue might be. And then I found it over actually here on the GitHub repository as an open issue. No authorization was found in the request.cookies. Here it says they had an issue with uploading the file. I didn't have that issue. Again, my issue had to do with downloading the file. But in the end, I was getting more or less this same error code, this FST JWT no authorization in cookie. And I couldn't figure out what that issue was. Like I had done everything. And of course I saw this and I was like, okay, it's not just me. I did things right. There's a problem here. And I was going through all of this. And this person was using Caddy, and maybe initially that was the issue. Should I maybe read this more closely? And then oh wait, never mind, it wasn't that at all. So then this person's also having a similar issue while using Nginx Proxy Manager, basically the exact same error message there. And if we scroll down a little farther, again, somebody else having this issue. And then 2 days ago, actually, this person said, going back to version 3.2.0-beta resolved this issue for me. My setup is behind traffic ingress controller. And so I decided at that point to, instead of using the latest tag or not having a tag on there at all, to go back and use the version, the tag that this user had specified. And most of my problems at that point went away. So I think this is one of those cases where sometimes pinning a version that isn't latest is actually the solution that we're looking for. Because sometimes going with the latest, the most bleeding edge, whatever, can actually cause issues if there was some sort of a coding issue in the newest release. So I'm actually really glad that this user, whose name I will screw up if I try, I'm glad that they had the wherewithal to try an older version and have the issue that we're talking about here go away. So I was super, super thankful for that. The other issue that I ran into as I was going through this is that this is a case where I ran into more issues while using Cloudflare Tunnels with Palmr. When I went to a different reverse proxy, those problems went away. And I want to demonstrate that real quick. And I promise we're going to get into the rest of this video. So here's where I'm going to show you the issue that I ran into, right? I'm going to have the URLs blurred because it doesn't matter. But basically, these are the same. The only thing that's changing here is the method by which we're accessing this page, this file, right? This instance is being accessed via Cloudflare Tunnels. We can see the name of the file, the size, the date. We've got a couple of actions where we can view this or we can download this. If I click view here, we get a broken image icon up here. Nothing is loading appropriately. If I click download, it says it was downloaded successfully. We've got this. If I click save right here, the site wasn't available. Basically, it threw a 400 error in the back end of this, but we couldn't see it. It will not download this file because it thinks the file doesn't exist. And again, this what we're seeing here is being accessed via Cloudflare Tunnels. And this is the first time I've personally run into an issue like this, but it is an issue nonetheless with Palmr, at least at the time of recording this video. However, if we switch to a different tab here, this is the exact same page. This is the exact same instance. This is the exact same everything, except for the reverse proxy that's being used. This is not Cloudflare Tunnels. This is Pangolin, if it matters, but it would be fine for traffic or whatever as well, right? Again, all of this looks the exact same as what we just saw. However, if I click the image, hey, look, there I am. There's me and my wife. If I click download, says it was downloaded, I can click save. And if I download this, or if I click this, right there is that file that of course opened in the other window, but there it is. Everything worked here while not using Cloudflare Tunnels. So I wanted to kind of demonstrate that little caveat at the beginning of this video, so you've got an understanding of what's going on. Sometimes using the latest tag on a Docker image is the wrong idea. It doesn't work. Also, sometimes the reverse proxy of your choice may not be the right one for a particular application. So I wanted to get those little caveats out of the way with specifically with Palmr. Also, I want to mention this uses Docker. I'm not the developer. If you don't like Docker, this isn't going to be the app for you. And if you've got problems like I did, I'm not going to be able to help you more than the developer will. So again, links to everything will be in the video description. So with all of the caveats and all of the disclaimers out of the way, let's take a look at Palmr. So this is the Palmr instance that we've been looking at on the recipient side of things, but this is the dashboard that you as the user, specifically the admin in this case, would see when you log in. Yours might look a little different based on your storage usage and your available storage for your instance. This would be about the only thing that would be different, but we've also got up here, if we take a quick look, let's look here. Lots of different languages it's been translated into, so I think that's great. We can do light mode, dark mode. I guess we'll go light mode because I've had some complaints about dark mode. Man, that sucks. And then we can also go, it can also go based off of your system, which I love. Up here, we've also got some more information, but we'll take a look at that in a little bit. Now, I do want to say that this is version 3.2.0 beta. This is what we reverted back to get rid of the issues we were having with that JWT secret issue that came up earlier in this video, right? So there will be things in the newer version. There'll be additional features that we're missing out on by going back a version. But again, if you want it to work, sometimes you just got to go back a version until the new issues have been fixed, right? So below their storage here, we've got my files. If we open this up, we can see all of the files that are available here. We can preview, edit, download, share, or delete from this area, or we can select files here and download, share, or delete in kind of a more mass file sort of way. So that's what your files are going to look like. You can upload files from here as well. You can drag and drop, or you can click here and go find your files and upload them. Pretty straightforward as far as that's concerned. But let's say we wanted to share a file, right? Let's grab, these are some plant files or some plant pictures I took the other day. So let's come up to here. Let's share those 3 files. I don't know where that name came from, but it is what it is. I'm going to call this 3 plants. You can enter a description, some plant pictures. We can set an expiration date if you want to have one of those. We can have a maximum number of views if you want to do that as well. You can also password protect the share if you want to go that route. So lots of options in here for additional security for the files that you're sharing. We can also see total size. Interesting that it doesn't, but that's not right, but maybe this is something that was fixed in the newer version that broke something else. I'm not sure. We click share. Here we can generate an alias for the link. We can leave this as the random string of characters for the sake of privacy or security to keep people from randomly guessing. Or you can call it 3 plants or whatever is relevant to your share. We can click generate link here. And right there is our generated link. Let's do Control-Shift-N. Let's paste that in there. Let's view the file. Hey, look. There's our white knight. Let's click download. Let's click save. And hey, look, that time it worked. So we downloaded the file. We can do that, or we can click download all. It's going to create the zip file. Zip file was created successfully. Save that. If we open this up, we've got our 3 plants right there. I can extract. I just do WinRAR, I guess. There are our files. So that's how easy it is to share files from here. Again, if you've got the right reverse proxy in place. So that's kind of the basic gist of how Palmr works, right? But what I really like about this is the ability to receive files from other people. you can click this and you can say, you can create a new share link, and you can say, send me, let's call it plant images. And you can say, send me plants, sure, whatever. Page layout, you can change what the page layout will look like. You can predetermine when it will expire. You can predetermine the password. For the users will need this password to access the link to upload the files for, again, additional security. Again, you can restrict file size, number of files, those sorts of things. And then field requirement, you can make their name and their email either required or optional. Completely up to you how you want to handle that. And then you can create a receive link. Oops, don't want to do a password there, but I guess we'll have to. So let's just do that. Create the receive link, and then we can create the alias, and then the plant images here, right? We're going to change that URL to use the other domain, and then I entered the password incorrectly. Go me. But you kind of get the idea of how this works, and I love all of the different features about Palmr and how easy it is to use, again, with a couple of little caveats that we've run into so far. Again, from here, you can view all of your shares. You can create an additional share down here at the bottom. You can edit your shares with QR codes. You can edit the link. You can view details. You can manage recipients. Really, really love the abilities that they've got built into this, or at least where it's headed once they get some things worked out. One last little thing that I want to take a look at up here is actually at the top. We've got our profile where we can click on that, and we can, change our profile picture, change our contact information, change our password, enable two-factor authentication. Love that that's built into this. But there's even more great features built in, right? We go to customization, theme mode, so you can do light, dark, or system. Theme colors, like I think I've got it set to emerald, but you can change it to blue, or any of these predetermined colors as kind of your accent colors. So I really like the blue. Typography, you can change your fonts. You can actually see them change in real time, and I love that. Border radius, if you really care, you can go very round with different things, or you can do maximum, or you can play around with this to make it your own. Again, background colors, you can change these as well. And I think settings. This is where this app really, really shines, in my opinion, especially for this being a beta release of this app. Under general, you can change the logo, or you can remove the logo, change all of the identifying information here, kind of a white labeled solution here. Email server configuration. It's got this here. Rather than having to put this in, say, a Docker Compose and have it exposed on your server there, you can have it exposed here instead. So you can put all of your SMTP information in here very, very easily. Test to make sure it's going to work. I love how easy that part is, but there's more. There's more. Authentication providers. You want to add OIDC to this with your own personal SSO provider. Man, have at Google, Discord, GitHub, Authentic, Pocket ID, whatever you want to use here, it's available, it's built in. It's not been paywalled. It's not a crazy setup process, again, in a Docker Compose. If you want to use Authentic, cool, turn that on, edit that. And here you go. Now you can fill in the blanks here, use the information that's here for the callback URL in Authentic. Again, security, block duration for max login attempts, all of this great stuff that's really thought about for a file upload application. I love what they've done with this. And again, storage, maximum storage per user by default is 10 gigs. Maximum file size for an individual upload, by default 1 gig. You can change that to megabytes, terabytes, petabytes, crazy, crazy stuff available here. So that's kind of the gist here of Palmr. Again, a couple of little hiccups along the way here and there. These kind of things happen periodically. Again, my biggest hiccup was the latest version and being on Cloudflare Tunnels, but you go back a version and use a different reverse proxy and you should be good to go, and I love that. So With that little demo out of the way, let's take a look at how easy this actually is to get set up. So if we come back over to the GitHub repository for Palmr, we've got, like we looked at earlier, we've got 4 different Docker Compose options with a bind mount, a Minio storage, and S3 storage, and then this is actually a Docker volume storage option. If we look at the bind mount here, again, we've got, this will be just mapped to a folder on your server. You can map this to wherever you have permission to mount things on your server's storage. I went with the Docker Compose here, which is the Docker volume option, where we've got this volume here. We've got it declared down here. This is the option that I went with for my setup. I've got system encryption. This says disable file system encryption. That feels like a double negative when you set that to false. Anyway, I have file system encryption turned on with my encryption key right here. I do not care if you see this. This won't be publicly available by the time this video goes live. You can set the UID and the GID for permissions to create folders within your system as necessary. Secure site I set to true because I've got this on a reverse proxy. If you're just going to host it locally, you can leave this set to false. Or just leave this commented out because that's what it defaults to. There's some additional stuff down here for download max concurrent, memory threshold, queue size, minimum file size, to activate memory management. You can auto scale. You can enable garbage collection. Again, you can enable S3. You can reject S3 unauthorized. All kinds of different things in here you can manipulate. And again, we've got other Docker Compose files available depending on what kind of approach you want to take to deploying this for your particular setup. The one thing that I will say, once you get this Docker Compose set up the way you want, whether it's in the terminal like I did, or say in something like Portainer or whatever, this usually takes about 5 minutes to deploy for some reason. It will just say, step 1 of 2 deploying or whatever. Maybe I can come over here and look. So this is, these are the logs of things that are happening kind of in the background. I've turned off the auto refresh. If we keep scrolling up, we can see that this has been going for a while. This is that error code that we talked about at the beginning of the video that I ran into, that I had to go back to the previous version for. Also seems to happen when using Cloudflare Tunnels for some reason. If we keep scrolling up, just more of the same over and over and over and over again. Here we go. So this section right here, if I enable timestamps and auto refresh, give that a second for the timestamps to come up. There we go, and we'll turn that off. And then we'll scroll all the way up. Right. Okay, so here we can see we were at like 10:18 p.m. approximately when it started. And if we start scrolling down, 10:20, we're still, Palmr is starting, be patient. And it wasn't until about 10:24, so 5-6 minutes for this to actually come up and be available as it was going through its startup process here. So just something to be aware of. This is kind of going through and setting some configuration stuff. So it took several minutes for Palmr to come up and actually be available to use after I had gone through the process of deploying the container. So just be aware that it will say, please be patient, Palmr is starting, for several minutes, possibly, while this is going on. So couple of little things here, and this isn't, I bring this stuff up because I really like where the app is headed. I love the idea behind Palmr, but there are definitely some issues in the current development. And I hope you guys will check it out and will help the development crew, whoever's building this. I hope you will help them out by submitting tickets and issues. If you can help them in some way by bug fixes or whatever, I think that would be amazing. I didn't actually look on this. I'm curious. I want to take a look over here. Currently 1.8K stars, so 1,800 stars on this at the time of recording this video. It would be great if you guys checked out this project, and if you can help them out, that'd be awesome, whether it's giving it a star, following, forking, whatever. But if you can help them figure out some of the issues they're having, that would be cool as well, if they're open to that. I haven't actually reached out to these guys yet. But again, it's one of those things where sometimes running the latest version isn't the proper idea. And sometimes your favorite reverse proxy method isn't either. And I wanted to bring those up because this is one of those cases where I thought it'd be fun to talk about that. So that's Palmr. That's kind of my take on it, my experience with it. I love where it's headed, but I don't think it's quite there for me just yet. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Again, links to everything in the video description. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be amazing. Becoming a channel member or a Patreon will give you early access to ad-free content when it's available. And it'll get your name on the billboard back there as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you again here real soon.